But let me just go through the antitrust policy notice to get us started. So, at the beginning of every meeting, we show the antitrust policy notice to help make sure everyone is comfortable about how we communicate. Full antitrust policy is on the Linux Foundation website. And if you're from a member company, you can ask questions of our counsel, Andy Updegrove. If you're not from a member company, of course, you can ask any questions of your own counsel. Anyway, today, it's all about India work group. What do we do next? What do people want and need? First item of business was just before we officially started, we were saying that we could do a Slack channel that's been created and that will be promoted as part of the outcomes of this meeting. When it comes to a specific agenda, we don't really have one per se. We have one agenda item, and that is that Arun is helping to reboot OpenChain India, taking chair this year, and we have an open discussion about what do people need, what do people want from open source business process management, Indian market, and a community that we can contribute. So what do we need to do? Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. So basically, we are kind of starting from scratch here. So in the past, it was all these companies who are represented in even in the European circle. We all were either working with them here locally in India. So pretty much this topic is covered in that sense. So I don't know like what different things that we have to do, in this group beyond our organizational scope. Because if we look at it from an org scope, it would be limited because most of these topics are already covered in their counterparts in Europe also. So I'm opening up this to the discussion to all. Maybe Bala, Lakshmi, if you have suggestions, how to proceed with this. If you have some ideas, let's do some brainstorming here today because, as you know, there is no agenda item per se. So just open for your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Arun. So once again, hi everyone. Hope I'm audible. And
Yeah, you're audible. Yes.
yeah, okay, thank you. So as Arun, you have mentioned that we almost, covered and discussed most of the aspects. But still, I think the Gen I codes, right,
Mm-hmm.
and the guidelines for it, I think it's not yet clear. Like how to approach this kind of code and
Mm-hmm.
the scanning and all these things, that could be a concern. And the second thing, I think, uh, the clearance or the process to follow for usage of the containers. So I think
Mm-hmm.
these two, I have been with multiple forums and this still yet not clear. Maybe that's two of my point for today's maybe brainstorming session. Maybe you can
Okay.
take it up. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so one feedback to that is I think these topics are covered in
Mhm.
other open chain groups. Say, for example, the open chain tooling group and
Mhm.
also the OpenAI tooling group. These topics are already in discussion, but it does not have a regional flavor to it. But it's a global topic, so these are all
Yeah.
already in discussion. So I'm not sure how much value add because see, as I said earlier, we are all following
Mhm.
our parent company processes here. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
similar line, they are also being discussed in other forums. Maybe Shane can put some
Mhm.
light into it, like especially this Gen AI topic. Today we had an update from OSI on the OpenAI topic, I believe. Shane, you there?
Yes, I'm right
Yeah,
here. Can
yeah.
you?
Yeah. So Lakshmi was mentioning that two topics that she would like us to discuss more is about the Gen AI topic and also the clearing of compliance for containers.
Of
So
course.
I was telling that these two topics are already under some of the international groups already very much active, and yeah, we can see if do we have to have a local discussion or in the working group? Definitely, these are topics that we can come up with and then openly discuss. Uh, but I don't know whether it would be a redundant discussion with already some things happening.
You know, it's a very, very good question. I'm just going to pick up with generative AI
Mm-hmm,
because I believe it's today the EU AI Act came into force. So the first regulation regarding AI. And I think that's the beginning of what we'll see with more and more regulation in this area. And I have no doubt that in the Indian market, there'll be discussion about regulation and market management. So we do have an AI study group, for example. And that's covering the general topic of AI compliance in the global supply chain. But I think there will be plenty of scope to talk about something like generative AI and regulation in the Indian market, either
mm-hmm,
regulation which is underway or discussions about regulation that might happen in the future. And the same with other topics.
mm-hmm,
You know, the sheer size of the Indian market has, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in the last few years, for instance, we had some events supported by and co-hosted with Software Freedom Law Center India, and I
mm-hmm,
noticed that they had other activities regarding the Indian market, and a huge market, and quite often regulations, legislation addressing this market by the Indian government. So I think that there's plenty of things that we have global work groups, we have global discussions on, but we don't necessarily have insight or discussion into the Indian market. And
mm-hmm,
this is just an idea, but perhaps we can try to make sure that what we do here is super useful from India. And what we do is we use the global work groups as knowledge bases.
mm-hmm.
But we talk about what's necessary in the Indian market, 1.4 billion people. And I'm trying to think of the right word. The government in India is quite quick to introduce regulations or rules. So I think that that's an interesting example as well, especially on digital technology, internet. Regulations
Mm-hmm.
or so on seem to be very fast moving in India. So
Um, yes. So, I mean, my feedback would that is yes, and there are multiple reasons for it. It is not necessarily because um, it is like they have a great vision about it, because we had this privacy policy, India's data privacy policy, that tabled to the government, and yeah, there was a feedback period, and it came into being, but because of how the government is kind of set up in the last term, I think they were not, because they had the absolute majority and they were not required to consult too much. They could do it very easily. That was one reason for your what you have mentioned. The fast-paced regulations. But I believe there is something in the industry. I think in the coming months, regarding data privacy, there is going to be some significant update coming out from the government. That's what I hear about. But otherwise, in general, regarding Gen AI, yes, there is not much, discourse which is connecting the government side of things and the industry. So definitely, that is a topic that we can take up. I would also propose that I will get in touch with Prashant from SFLC, so that we could, again reboot a connection with the Freedom Law Center, and also explore other possibilities. There are a lot of open source communities. There's something called Force United India. So these are few of the options where we can combine our efforts and then do a more collaborative work. Because standing on our own and then building up this community would be a challenge, because we tried it, we failed at it. So I would propose a more collaborative hand-holding approach with other communities, especially because of the same reason, the sheer size of and the scope. uh, we would have some challenges. So yeah, Divya, you were saying something.
Yeah, so actually, I put a call for sort of request for input, which is how Lakshmi and I had a conversation. And I also had a lot of people from like the CNCF actually chip in with their contacts as well. And there's
Mm-hmm.
another organization that sort of works in this space known as Tattle. Tattle. I mean, I just know that this. I am not very familiar with the organizations in this space, but there's an organization named Tattle. I can pass the details on the Slack channel. So they
Mm-hmm.
also have sort of. I've started talking to them about this. So I think um, leveraging this as a thing to do in the form of a group activity would be really helpful rather than going at it alone for sure, because there are multiple stakeholders here and multiple people working towards the same end goal as well. So it would be helpful for sure. I'm just doing a plus one. So yeah.
It's
Yeah, yeah, sure.
a really good point. I mean, one of the things we have, I think we can say OpenChain has remarkable institutional knowledge on business process management in the supply chain and standardization, how to make a standard, how to build that consensus, how to deal with the politics. Uh, Maybe we can use that and our international connections as a value add to work with those other communities. And um, yeah, how I put it, I don't think there's any need for a feeling of competition. It's the opposite, actually. Um, we want to pull the threads together, build the bridges, and our unique value in OpenChain is we're at the very highest level. Not one industry, not one geography, the top level business process management for how do you do open source compliance, security assurance, answering the question of how do you make an open source ISO standard and why. It's a very interesting position and it's perfectly positioned to work with all of these other parties. Right, I'll be quiet now. Balakrishna, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Shane. That was very well put, actually, and that's the thing we need to do here. And there's also something which I would like to bring to notice here in this group. So I have attended two Force United events recently, and what I see is a lot of the participants over there are not from the big organizations. Number of participants from the big organizations over there who have their counterparts in Europe or US who are already aligned with OpenChain or any other open source communities and have matured with open source compliance models. Their participation is close to 20% at max, and rest 80% it's all startups or small companies or ones which have major Indian presence across the globe, right? So yes, there was a brilliant point that was brought that we need to discuss about all the policies that are being discussed on Gen AI and data privacy, the open source health, and all those things. For that, we can use the open chain other dedicated communities as the knowledge base, as Shane also mentioned, right? What we have to do is probably we need to start collaborating with these standalone communities who are, you know, what's the word? I'm not getting the word. Standalone
Yeah.
communities who are setting up events or conducting events across the nation. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we know Force United is doing event in every state now, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
there's I think it is some magazine company who also do an event. I forgot the magazine company again.
Yeah,
Uh,
open source India. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
open source India. Yeah, so all of these people they do events on their own. Probably we need to start collaborating with them because we have seen that open chain India, the participation always goes up and down, and the average number of participants is 5 to 6, right? And the amount of work you can do with this number of people is create awareness. The most easiest thing to do at the moment is start collaborating with people within the country and use the dedicated open chain communities as a knowledge base to borrow information from there. And one more point is, as Arun and Shane were discussing earlier, India has a vast amount of policies that have been already designed for GenAI and open source use. Many states have also announced that they would be using open source technology for dominating amount of their state infrastructure development, right? So we need to concentrate on all those things, but that thing can be considered as a priority too. Priority one can be that we collaborate with the local bodies who are working on open source, and then we bring them onto on board with us, so that we can spread the awareness more, or we can join them. We don't have to bring them into OpenChain. We can join them, and then we can start spreading more of awareness. Because even when I go to these Indian events here, any of the conferences, people who show up there, they just come to consume and not to contribute. Probably that is also something which we need to stress upon.
Yeah. Yeah. Bala, on that note, me and Shane had a discussion, especially regarding the startup system. And we had made some steps to reach out to those community. So that it's nothing has finalized, but there is an effort in that direction that we have put, especially with the government of Kerala.
Right.
So there are a few contacts that would serve helpful. But I mean, I'm glad
You know,
if we both can collaborate, and then I have some information already on that.
definitely we can do that. And I think you might know Biju Nair already.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
he is also working with a lot of people already. He has contacts with startups across India, even with
Yeah,
very large startups here in Bangalore who have contributed some major projects, right? So
yeah,
yeah, if join hands, probably we should be able to do something.
yeah. So I think maybe as in this reboot meeting, I think the next step is pretty evident, clear. Like we have to show our presence, and then shake hands with a lot of communities, and yeah, bringing people to open chain might not be best effort, but we
Right.
from
So
open chain
our
going
intention,
to other events, yeah.
our intention should not be that we bring people to open chain. Rather, we say, hey, there is a community here as well, and then there are other
Hmm.
communities. We have to endorse each other, and then we can say
Yeah,
there are things that makes stuff easier for your companies to implement open source ultimately. And if you need a mark of assurance or quality, then we also have a ISO standard which is going to support it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, Shane, then I guess I think we don't have much more points to discuss further than this, but thanks for setting this up, and
Oh,
I will follow up on that, but we will continue for a few more minutes.
yes,
Shane,
please.
thank you so much. Yeah.
No, please do. And I do have one small request as the conversation continues. It's how can we take some of the resources from global open chain, like the work on AI, the work on SBOM, and how can we bring that to the India market? That's one part. And the other part is a lot of people are asking what's going on in India. So I'd love if we could also make it a two-direction discussion and use this opportunity of the India work group to gather information about how India is dealing with these challenges and share that outwards, because India is such a big market that it's of huge interest to people. Just for example, in Japan, in China, and so on, everyone's selling into India. They want to know where the market's going. So if we could have it two ways, that would be great.
Yeah, sure, Shane. We will take it in that direction. Yeah, sure.
Alrighty, I'll catch you guys later, and
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Have fun continuing.
Yeah, yeah. We will discuss for a few more minutes, and then we'll see.
Thank you,
So
Shane.
yeah, if you are all, I mean, everyone is also available, we can continue this discussion and then maybe conclude it in another 5-10 minutes. So maybe should we identify some action steps uh, today, and then, or maybe like where to start? Like, should we document? Should we, how to arrange ourselves?
If I may, I think one of the first things, based on the conversation that I've been overhearing between you and Bala here, is that we probably need to divide our efforts into work and maybe focus areas, because the we primarily have a couple of focus areas at this point. One is obviously awareness building, which is still going to be a thing, and the second is the fact that we are planning to collaborate and um, drive our whole drive this whole thing with other communities in India. So maybe we have like different focus groups for that. It need not be official focus groups, but just for the sake of delineating work and to sort of understand where we are at with each and track efforts, I think it would be helpful to have those focus groups. And I know it's just 5 people right now. I'm not saying that we need to have like 10 focus groups among 5 people, but having those areas that we need to target, it would be helpful rather than just running around the place saying that we're doing this and the third thing.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Let's have that. So what I will do is I will continue the community reach out efforts that I had started off with, and then maybe report back on that progress. And maybe like Bala, you have some ideas, Lakshmi.
Okay.
So, yes, please go
Yes,
on,
Bala.
Lakshmi.
No, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Currently, what I'm doing is, well, I recently moved to a new job and I'm trying to sell OpenChain there. So, yeah, I'm a little held up on that part, but of course, I can work with you on
Mm-hmm.
approaching different people for collaboration.
Okay.
I will be getting in touch with Piju and then probably get some information for you.
Yeah. Okay. I think okay. I mean, then as I said earlier, I will also get in touch with Prashant from SFLC, and then maybe we can plan a follow up on this. So
Right.
Lakshmi, you are next.
Yes. So I think for that OSI days, right? What Bala has already mentioned. So we are presenting this time our general, our community, the guidelines and everything, and we're planning for stalls and everything. So for uh, this year, so maybe we can have more communication with different community, just like Bala said. Then we can just have just to increase the engagement a bit and how other things, other companies rules and regulations has been there. So you can just have a check, and maybe uh, that can be increased for the time being, and
Yeah.
maybe you
Um.
can just check
So
and
for
you can update you. Yeah.
yeah. So for the OSA days, is it community? You mean the physiology in Software 360?
It is no, that is already presented right a long time back, so we're not presenting. It's like something best practices and
Ah, okay.
something from Lakshmi Narayan's as well. So 2 3 workshop we do have this time, so we're still finalizing the content. Yeah.
Sure, sure.
See, Arun, that there's also going to be one more thing, right? That the larger organizations who are participating here in OpenChain India or any other events of open source, there's always a confusion between whether they have to follow the Indian regulations or the European regulations or US regulations. So these
Yeah,
larger
yeah.
companies usually tend to follow the regulations wherever they're headquartered in or wherever their predominant products are being sold. That's also
Yeah.
a reason why I was selling on this startups or medium level companies.
Yeah, yeah. MSMEs, yeah. Hmm.
Right. So
Yeah.
one more thing, what we can do is we have this playbook in OpenChain reference material GitHub
Hmm.
repository. So probably we can look at those playbooks and see if we can tweak them according to Indian policies. Yes, Divya, please go
Hmm.
ahead.
No. So this is just something that came up, and because you said Indian companies and the Indian companies that specifically participate in conferences here and abroad. So KubeCon is being held this time in India in December, and there will be companies participating from India. We're looking to tap into the local ecosystem. And given the focus areas that were just spoken about, specifically the container part, I think we would find a lot of audience there. Um, as one of the co-chairs for KubeCon, I can confirm that we might not be able to get a stall or anything, but we can definitely have some sort of co-located day or one event here or a meetup, so that we can actually try. So like if y'all can make it, that's another thing, but this is just an idea
Yeah,
that I'm
I,
floating, given the presence that, I mean, given the target audience that we were talking about.
I think that's a great idea, Divya. Like, uh, so this is happening in Bangalore, or where is it happening?
No, it's in Delhi.
Oh, okay.
So it's in Delhi, and it's in December, so it's going to be cold. But yeah, so it's going to be there, December 11th and 12th. So we can probably have like one a day prior. We can have a meetup of like folks, like in-person meetup of folks. So that was
Mm-hmm.
one of the first things. And the second thing that I wanted to talk to is the fact that I will be. I don't know if this is of interest again, but I will be at an event known as DPG Talks, dealing with the Code for GovTech. And there will be major players in the digital public goods and infrastructure space, building open source technologies, on October 9th. I'm going to be there. I'm a panelist there. So I don't know if there is interest in me actually socializing anything there, and if there is, because those will be mostly government folks working on different open source technologies, like different institutions working on different open source technologies like DPI, DPG stuff. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So I think there are few. I think as Bala said, like we can refer the existing playbooks and see what are the possibilities of repurposing it in Indian context. That is one thing. And yeah, what Lakshmi mentioned, that they're already planning some best practices, something. So whether that can also be brought into the larger context. So I think we have few ideas now that we can go back and work on, and then come back on this. So
Yes,
I'm not sure
and
whether we are ready yet to schedule a recurrent call for this topic, but I think we can agree sometime to come back on this and then see the progress
yeah,
and
so
decide then.
we can keep it a little ad hoc, but having one set date to meet upon sounds good so that we have traction on what we are going to
Hmm.
do. And as Divya suggested, though we cannot get a stall, if we can meet people and just talk to them about, the open source compliance or the security assurance, it would be great.
Hmm.
That's a wonderful idea what Divya put across, and it's a noted point, right? A lot of people, all the companies in our country will definitely attend KubeCon, CNCFCon, and all those things because they are more technology oriented. When it comes to compliance, the companies slowly start deprioritizing it, right? So talking in these events would definitely make sense. Unfortunately, since I'm not officially participating from my company's end yet, I won't be able to make any presentation as of now, so I will be a backend contributor. Once my company agrees for me to be official representative into OpenChain India and OpenChain worldwide, then I can
Hmm.
even come join you guys and join you all and give presentations or talk to people from the official front.
Yeah,
Will
definitely.
definitely be a backend contributor.
Sure. So I think then we can have the discussions open in the Slack channel, and then keep the ideas flowing, and then we can decide in the Slack and finalize a day how it ends up, right?
I
Uh,
would recommend keeping it monthly spaced instead. Again, based
Mm-hmm.
on my opinion, running several communities, I would keep it monthly spaced. I would not say we need to decide on a date right now, but we should at least meet on a monthly cadence to catch up, to
Yeah,
figure out
yeah.
where we are. Otherwise, it can quickly die out. The discussions can quickly die out without even having taken ground. So I think we should at least keep it at a monthly pace.
Yeah. Then I think incidentally today happens to be the 1st of August, and then maybe we can do September 2nd or something. It's a Monday. Like, or I don't know. Like I'm open. Like because generally the first week of OpenChain, first week is quite busy. I think with all the community something. So we can
Yes.
push it to last week also.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Any week after first week, um, so we can decide on a probable week we would be meeting on, and then date can be confirmed 2 weeks prior or something.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think this time we couldn't send it out much prior because there was a cancellation from last week, and so I think.
Right. And
Yeah.
one request, I do not use Slack. Can we keep that on emails if you don't mind?
Yeah, we can then use it in the email chain itself.
Right. I have my Slack account connected to my SSO on my personal device as well as on my official device, so it directly takes me to my company account, and I cannot use my personal account. It's
Okay. I
very
think
weird that way.
it's even me also. There's no company account. For you, it's a company Slack, right? So we don't have
Yeah.
Slack the org. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess there is nothing much to discuss. I am done from my side. So
Yes, but thank you for setting the agenda, and I hope if we make any progress with this, I think we will be in a good shape in a couple of months.
yeah, definitely that should be something that we can do.
Right.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. Let's
Thank you all.
follow up with the
Yeah.
discussions in the mailing list and then see how we can proceed.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Everyone.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Bye.